Hello, everyone. We're so excited today to have Emily Green. Oh my goodness. I love how I meet people because it's never,
Yeah.
ever by chance. Kara had mentioned you in a post, and I reached out and connected, became a part of your community. And I just want to start by saying, Emily is a TEDx speaker, a keynote speaker, and she's really the driving force behind Love Means Business. She
Yes.
also scaled and sold Grace Communication. So like she has this background that is super phenomenal, and I can't wait to tap into her wisdom when it comes to speaking. So
Yes.
Emily, do I need to add anything to your introduction?
No, I mean, I think you covered a lot of it before I really got into having my agency and now what I'm doing. I did work in corporate marketing for quite some time, so that also has given me a good perspective and a launching pad, to be able to do what I'm doing now. But I learned so much in that time too.
Right. Well, and that leads me to ask you, like, what got you started in this industry?
Uh-oh. Oh
Being
no.
in like that's really interesting. We've
So
been having this like
sorry.
okay, so I'm really excited to ask you.
It kind of froze. So I think you were asking me, oh gosh, you're frozen again. Not sure what you asked me. It froze right when you asked me the question. Oh no.
Oh no. Okay, so if I
Okay.
disconnect, I will pop back in. But this is we've had a lot of fun with all this stuff going on. Yeah, so I live in Southern California, and going on next door, it sometimes disrupts our energy flow. Anyways, so what I was asking is, what got you into the speaking industry?
Yeah. Okay. So originally, when I first really started saying yes to the speaking engagements and going after it, was probably 3 or 4 years before I sold my agency, and I really wanted another way to connect to people and really attract the right clients, the right team, and build that credibility and visibility. So my very first speaking thing that I did was an It's a Match. And I still do that talk, the It's a Match talk. How to treat your business like dating. I did that for a women in business group, and it was the Matthews Chamber of Commerce. I ended up doing that twice for them. It was so popular, but that event was such a fun way for me to kind of get introduced to the power of speaking, the power of being able to have an idea, because I always had this kind of concept of dating and business are alike. It was actually something that I used to make myself feel better, going through rejection, going through some of these painful things we do as entrepreneurs. And
Mhm.
I remember thinking, like, this reminds me of something else. I'd be like, what is this feeling after I'd been ghosted, by a client, or I'd been putting all this time and effort to a relationship, and then it doesn't work out, or they cancel their contract. And I'm like, this feels eerily similar to when I was dating and when I was on
Mm.
specifically dating apps, you know?
Oh my gosh,
And
that's so
and
funny.
I thought, if I could overcome that and find my husband and have this, beautiful life and love with him, I'm like, I think I can do it with business too. So it kind of was that way of reassuring myself that, you know, these things happen in life, but they also kind of mirror what happens in business. So I had the concept to create, this presentation, this talk, because I wanted to help other people laugh and feel better about it
Right.
too. So that was interesting because it was another creative outlet for me too. So it was a way to connect.
Mm.
It was a way to attract leads, attract people that I could work with, but
Mhm.
also a way to take these ideas and become not sort of, become a thought leader that helped other entrepreneurs, helped other people, other speakers, even eventually inspire them to do the same. Because that particular event, I had a couple different people that were like, this is so creative. I love this. And they came to me and said that inspired them to then create their own talk and their own
Mhm.
workshops. And that's so
Yeah.
neat. It's like this ripple effect. So that's
Yeah.
really what got started for me, was that event.
Yeah. You're saying something that is so strong, that we don't have to pigeonhole ourselves into these that we wear,
Yeah,
right?
it's okay. I think I heard what you said though.
Yeah, I was like, please go on. So we don't we get to be in our zone of
Yes.
genius. And I think because of that, that is what has that opportunity awaken
Mhm.
for you to go in and do something that you're super passionate about talking
Yeah.
about. And then not only by you showing up authentically, you're inspiring the next person to do the same.
Yeah.
And I think that leads me into that first question is like, okay, so what is the origin of this speaking community? Because I kind of already know the back end of it because I'm in it, but I would love to hear like what drove you into putting this community together.
Yeah. So the Love Means Business speaker support and referral community really was an idea that I started to have probably right after I had sold my agency, and I felt like I wanted another way to connect in a really big way, that had no borders,
Mhm.
that had no really limitations. And I wanted an opportunity to be able to answer a lot of the questions and needs that were coming to me. And I think we talked about this, but I it's important to listen to what people are saying your perceived value is. And that is, what are people coming to you and asking you constantly for help with? What are they referring you constantly to other people? Like maybe they're introducing you or connecting you to people all the time saying, hey, you should talk to Candace for this, this, and this. I kept
Mhm.
getting that where unsolicited I was getting messages daily from people that were like, how are you getting booked for these things? I'd really like to pick your brain and talk to you about that. Can you help me? They would ask me questions about, how did I grow my agency? Like, what are the things I did to do that? And the things that I post, these opportunities that I'm posting every day in the community, those are also the ways that I helped grow my brand and be able to scale it as fast as I did. So it was really me listening to all of these people coming to me and being like, okay, how can I help? How can I create something that will help speakers get booked more, that will help brands grow more in an affordable, easily digestible way
Mhm.
that solopreneurs and thought leaders can do. So it was part that, and it was also me taking the things that I liked when I had my agency. I had these different tools that we would use and different research methods and things. And I wanted a way to kind of consolidate those into a space that could eventually not replace, but complement these other things. So I look at this community as a complementary place for
Mhm.
speakers bureaus, for agencies, for really, they're not replacing it. It's a complement or even an incubator to eventually be able to say, okay, I'm going to grow to this point, and then eventually I will hire a publicist or I will work with an agency. But it's fine. You may never want to do that. Some people want to stay hands on and they want to keep being that person that does it for their brand. And so it could be that for your entire career. And I
Yeah.
also wanted an opportunity to create and put out there content in the form of events and also the posting and stuff that I'm doing that again answered these pain points and these things that I know I need and I've needed and that other thought leaders come to me about. So the events that I'm creating that we're doing through the community are very intentional. And it's exciting for me because I've really never got to put on events that were my own. I've always been hired by clients, or I've been picked, to speak at an event, but it was never my event. So it's really, really cool to be able to use all of that experience that I have doing these amazing events for clients and through my volunteer roles and everything. But now I'm doing it through my own brand. So it's neat.
Yeah, that's really fun. And I think it's, again, you have so much experience. The first speakers have.
Okay, so I'm going to make sure I heard what you said. So walk through like the first issue that I see speakers have. Is that what you said?
Yeah, like that first struggle that you see.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I think there's a lot of things that I've had people come to me and I've struggled with, but I think one of the big things is consistently having leads and consistently getting booked. So, which is the same issue that a lot of businesses have. I mean, entrepreneurs, we are always facing that. So it's like feast or famine. And that can be really scary. And then it can make you like pick the wrong opportunities. So number one, definitely that I hear a lot is like, how do I consistently get booked? And then I would say number two would be the question of how much do I charge? And should I do free? Should I only do paid? But we'll get to that one. So let's talk about the feast or famine thing. So I think that's a struggle for really all speakers except for maybe that like top 3% that are famous in some way, and they have so much coming to them they can't even keep up with it, and they probably have an agent or multiple people managing those opportunities. I think that part of the stress too that a lot of speakers feel is the comparison thing. You see social media and we see all these things about people. Oh, I don't get on stage unless it's $10,000 or more, and you think that that's what you should be doing or that's what should be coming to you. And I will just say, if this is the only chance I get to say this, which it won't be, hopefully, most of that isn't true. A lot of the things you're seeing on social media, it's meant to be promotional. It's meant to seem really grand and big. Now, I'm not saying like everyone that says that is lying. I'm not saying that, but don't judge yourself based off that. If you're not having people knocking down your door saying, please let me pay you $10,000 to speak at my event, that doesn't mean you're not successful. I would say, yes, you should get paid for your time, but if you're not getting as many opportunities as you want, then I would also look at that and say maybe there's some opportunities to not get paid, but still get on stage to build that resume up, which will then start making this kind of like machine where you start attracting more. Because there are some opportunities that are amazing, but they don't pay. And this is where I can argue with some speakers, and they refuse to do anything that's not paid. And Oprah does unpaid speaking. So I'm like, if Oprah will do unpaid speaking, I'll do unpaid speaking sometimes. I think it's just a balance. You have to make sure that it's worth the effort and time for your goals. So people that are struggling with the leads part, struggling getting booked, they need to do an audit of everything they're doing, their social media, their marketing, their connections, the things they're saying yes and no to, and really figure out what are those goals and figure out a way to there's a formula to it. If you do A and B, you'll get C. So figure out a formula that works for you to make sure you're constantly attracting more leads to yourself. Part of that is using strategic marketing, using your social media. Part of it's doing things like what we're doing now is, having a space where you're connecting with others and you're highlighting others. And part of it is being in communities like what I've created, where you can find not just speaking opportunities, but get on podcasts, become quoted in different articles that potential event organizers, potential clients, potential other thought leaders will see. Because the more you can get yourself out there and be seen, it just attracts. And it's this machine type thing. The other thing that I always say is, if you find that people are not coming to you and you're feeling like stuck, kind of, I would say there's one thing I see a lot that causes this. You're being too self-promotional, meaning you might be trying to sell yourself so much that you're kind of pushing people away, and they're kind of like, ugh, the factor. So I would challenge you and say, what can you do to make it less about you and more about other people? And it sounds counterintuitive, but that is part of what I do as well. Not to give all my secrets away, but I do a lot of shining on other people. Yeah. And I do it because I love doing that, but also because people, when you spotlight them, they're more likely to refer you. They're more likely to repost and share to their network. And that's going to, again, open up more leads for you. So hopefully that helps with that one. Let me know if you want me to go on to number 2.
Yeah, no, I love it. Well, because I agree so much. And like, a lot of my, like I started having these really great conversations with people like yourself. And that's why I started doing these lives. It's like, when we can shine light on great humans doing great work and teaching others how to do great work, why not? Like, it gets to be fun. And there's a whole lot I could go into down that, but I think you're right. I think we undervalue podcasts and free events. And, like you said, if Oprah can do it, why not us? Like,
I mean, I've heard she does. I don't know for sure, but I heard she does them. She does some stuff for free. So don't get mad at me if I'm not true.
Yeah, I'm sure. Oh yeah, I know. Well, and going back to the comparison, another speaker I was connecting with, we spoke about how, like, there's this concept that if speaking's not the only thing you're doing, then you haven't made it as a speaker. And it's like, but that's not the reality. Like, there's a few speakers, right? Like a handful that's like all they do. But not even that. Like, they still do other things. Like, they're still coaching people. So it's all that illusion, right? That we have to filter through and take it away. And it's not that you can't get paid these higher amounts. It's that, there's also these micro opportunities that are like 500 here, 3,000 there, and that we should celebrate it all and think about those other opportunities. Because again, if we're measuring our success on what the industry has taught us is successful, then we will always feel depleted instead of getting excited.
I completely agree.
I think this question, I didn't put it on here, but I think I can tell why you're so passionate about it, because you want people to really shine and be able to get to their audience and feel alive whenever they're doing this. What do you feel is the hardest part about narrowing down your message? Because I think that's a big struggle that I see. I know in myself, I'm like, I could talk about everything, but if you talk about everything, then you sell nothing. So how do you think we can distill that down to those top 3 and feel comfortable with it?
That's hard. But I think that kind of boils down to your overall brand and messaging. So I think if you can get that figured out, like you've got your brand. Like when I came up with Love Means Business, I was like, aha, I had that moment where I just knew this was it. So I think you have to get that
Mhm.
figured out. And to figure that out, you need to know yourself really well. So that's where
Yeah.
you really need to take the time to either look it up, do some research, and do some different activities to kind of narrow down your messaging, like your brand messaging.
Mhm.
And then that will there's all kinds of things you can do, like branding
Mhm.
journeys and all of that. And I actually have a thought leadership program that helps with that. But the problem is we're creative, right? And we have all these ideas, and I'm guilty of it too sometimes. And you want to do all these different things, but when you start writing all that down, like everything you want to do, a lot of times you will find commonalities. You'll find certain words that you say over and over and over again. And sometimes you just write it all out, get it
Mhm.
all out there, just purge your brain of all of those things, and then do an audit. Like if you were the IRS or whatever, auditing taxes, audit it. Circle those words that you see over and over, or the
Mhm.
phrases that like really get you. Like you read it and you're like, whew, that is, I love that.
Mhm.
And then you'll start to see these things come up, and then that's where you can create your core value words, your core value statements, your mission statement. From there, I really believe you have to have that first. Then that's where I would say, okay, these topics
Mhm.
that you're wanting, your signature talks, workshops, courses, community, whatever these things you're wanting to launch that are part of your core
Mhm.
services, your core whatever, do they match that? If they don't, then maybe
Mhm.
that's a 5 year from now you could work on that. But for now, it needs to be focused on those core things. So that's how I did it.
Mhm.
That's how I came up with the name for my brand. That's how I came up with my podcast name, which eventually was my brand. And how I have
Mhm.
my three things, which are keep loving, keep learning, keep leveling up. Everything flows in that. So if you're struggling with
Mhm.
that, if you're one of those people that cannot even focus enough to write everything down and do the audit, that's where I would say find someone that can help you, and find someone that's really good at organizing that will
Yeah.
help you figure that out. Because otherwise, if you're, let's say, you're into health and wellness and you want to do a talk about, trying to think, construction project management, that doesn't make sense. I mean, maybe if you, I don't know, maybe you can find a way to link that if you're talking about staying healthy on the site or something, but it has to
Yeah.
align or it's too confusing for people. So you
Mhm.
think about it that way too. Think about what you like to digest when you're listening. And
Mhm.
people only have so much attention span. So it needs to be very easy for them to digest, or you're going to lose them.
Absolutely. Well, and what I'm hearing you say is treat it like a
Yeah. Yeah, it
business
is.
instead of a hobby.
Exactly.
Because it's super easy, even in business, to think that you're treating it like a
Yes.
business, but if you don't have the core pillars of understanding, it's really challenging. And you got to think about it. If you can't talk about it, if you
Right.
can't sell it, then how can someone understand what it is that you're
Yeah.
doing?
Absolutely. Yeah.
And yeah, and so being able to like really distill down that messaging, I also feel comes from the energy that you
Mhm.
feel as you're talking. And like you said, there are those things that people come to you
Right.
all the time. So kind of those hints. We won't give away everything. But and that leads me to ask you, you've built, you've scaled, you've sold, and you've done the things. So what does this next chapter really look like for you as an entrepreneur?
Well, I think that's one of the things that I will never not do is love growing and creating. So one of the exciting things for me with the community that I've built is that I don't see any limits as to how I can grow, how I can keep creating with it. So I'll be looking for ways to keep growing the community and ways to create things through
Mhm.
the connections made, but also helping members
Mhm.
create things. And that's where I get super excited too, because I'm already
Yeah.
seeing that with some of the members that have been connected, and they're starting to do projects together. And then there's that ripple effect of that. That's so, so, so cool. So, I have ideas to keep
Mhm.
expanding it in that way, to keep having new offerings to help support the people that do join.
Mhm.
And then also, I do want to do like a conference, an in-person conference at some point that would have speakers
Mm.
from the
Yeah.
community and be open to the public to be able to come and to meet in person. Because I like the virtual concept because I want everyone to be able to be part of it, but I also would love to meet people in person at some point. Yeah.
Same. No, that's and we're all wanting that. Like, that is one of the biggest things that I'm seeing shift in this next year is that coming together, creating more community. There is just something about being in the energy of
Yeah.
others that just takes things to
Very
another
true.
level. I can't wait for that because I will be so much closer and, like, I will be there. And, just this leads me to a couple of last questions. Like, what do you think speakers commonly misunderstand about the speaking industry?
Well, I think it's sort of, I just did a post today about like why you should or shouldn't do TEDx. And I think one of the things in there really, some of those things that I mentioned are what I would say for that question. But I think
Mhm.
sometimes you just don't get into it for the right reasons. And again, this is my opinion.
Mhm.
So maybe I'm and
Mhm.
my opinion could is my opinion, right? It's not everyone's. But I feel like you should not become a speaker just to become more famous or just to make more money. For me, it's about having things that are so like I can't keep them in. I cannot keep these messages in. I'm too passionate about it. And I genuinely want the opportunity and the platform to reach as many people as I can because I'm so passionate about these things. And I think that is
Yeah.
also the difference between people that do truly connect and those that come across a little sketch, as my daughter would say.
Right.
So if it's not something that you feel so lit up about that honestly you would have a conversation that maybe no one would see and you would still be that passionate, then
Mhm.
I would say, are you sure
Yeah.
that's something you should share on stage? Like, what is your motivation? What are you really doing this for?
Mm.
And not saying we don't all want to make money. We have to make money. We have to pay for our bills and things.
Right.
But if
Right.
you're doing
Right.
it just for that reason, I also think you'll feel really, really hollow once you do achieve it because there's no end to that.
Mm.
So that's one big
Oh
thing.
my
Yeah.
gosh. Both my love language, 100,000%. Well, and I feel like, because I've had, the goal of speaking on my list forever, and I'm really stepping into it in
Yeah.
this last year of like having these different opportunities come forward. And what has helped me is like just like what you were saying is like I feel like I need to
Right.
get this message out there, and I'm like, how many people can I
Right.
share this with? Because it's something that was like just coming in. And it does feel so different versus like feeling like you're almost searching for what you
Yeah.
need to talk about. Like and that even trickles down into your online presence in
Hmm.
general. Like I will say my biggest shift was that clarity piece
Yeah.
and really knowing that like why I was doing it, it wasn't to serve me. It's literally to serve the
Right.
collective community. And it's a big shift. It makes such a big difference in everything that
Yeah.
you do. I really appreciate everything that you shared today. It's been so in depth, and I do want to ask, like, how do you work with people? Because I know that you have this community, but then I also know that you help speakers as
Yeah.
well. So, how can people connect, and how is it that you work with them
Yeah, so
primarily?
beyond joining as a member of the community, I do also offer one-on-one consulting. I do one-on-one PR consulting,
Mhm.
which that can be a couple different ways. It could be, where I meet with you once a week or once a month, and I help you with different strategies to get on more stages, to get booked more, in the media, to get on more podcasts. That's one type of consulting I do. The other type is that I work with entrepreneurs and I do business growth and scaling consulting. So it's more of a business coach type of thing. And I'm especially passionate about working with marketing agency owners who are wanting to scale and eventually sell, because that's what I did. And, as you know, when it's something you've done, you want to help others and learn from my lessons, my experience.
Yeah, I feel like that's why we end up in that coaching space, is like we've done all the things, we made all the mistakes, and we're like, if I had just
Right.
like simplified this over here, or made
Yeah.
this choice over here, or maybe hired someone
Yeah.
sooner to help me, it changes so much. I think that you do truly learn a lot along the journey,
Absolutely.
and that's part of the process. And also, I think if we're wise, we put our investments in the right place, is what I
Yeah.
would say. Like, and when it's aligned, and it's kind of like, when you're ready for that next evolution, that next step. And so it becomes almost easy to say, all right, you know what? I don't want to struggle doing this. So let me have Emily help take this
Yeah.
load off. But yeah, and what's the best way for people to
Well, they can contact me, or get in touch with me or connect with me in a lot of different ways. My website's emily-green.com. Also on LinkedIn, that's probably the platform I'm the most active on. Just search for Emily Green and you'll find me on there. Or you can email me at emily@lovemeansbusiness.com, and I'll definitely answer.
I love it. That's awesome. Well, thank you so much, Emily. Thank you for everyone that joined. I'll make sure to take a look at the comments and answer anything. If you have questions, please continue to reach out, and we will see everyone actually on Friday. I'll be back on Friday. So thanks, everyone.
Thanks for having me.